The most exciting and satisfying part of my work is revealing the beauty. What I'm talking about? Look at those pens. Kawarinuri with gold leaf, raden, rankaku. Simple kawarinuri with just 2 or 3 colors and some metal powders. And when I start the finishing, maybe not finishing, but the most important from my point of view step of my work, they look pretty boring. Typically, they look something like this. This pen, this exact pen, is same technique as this one. What I do is I reveal the pattern you can see here, which is hidden on this pen. It's below the black layers of Urushi, and what I do is I sand through those layers to reveal the true beauty of the pen. I wanted to show you pens on some other stages, and I will start with almost very beginning. This is raw ebonite pen, just lacquered once with actually rubbed in Urushi, raw Urushi, then lacquered once with Urushi and sanded to show better where it needs some priming and leveling the surface. So it's a very, very early stage of working on the pen once it goes off my lathe. Then, after priming and after first layer of nakanuri, so-called middle layer, it looks like this. This is almost the same pen lacquered with nakanuri layer. As you can see, it's not perfect layer. You can see some bumps, some pieces of dust which landed on the pen and cured, but it's not very important because I will sand it smooth anyway before any next layer. At this stage, I know that the pen is flat. There are no deep scratches, no unevenness. And once I sand this nakanuri layer, I will know that if it's ready for finishing steps. The same applies to color, because in this case, this pen is prepared for lacquering in blue. It's already lacquered with 1 layer of blue Urushi, but as you can see, during sanding, I over-sanded to the base layer. It happens more often than not, especially on early layers, and it means I have just repeat the blue layer at least once again. I want it to be smooth and flat and as even as possible on the whole pen. Especially the finials and the area here are difficult I need to match those 2 surfaces in sanding and in lacquering to make sure it looks good after finishing layers. Then I apply, I'm not sure I have it, but I can apply a structure layer. I will show something which can be interpreted as a structure layer. So this one is sanded already and lacquered with several more layers, but as you can see, the surface of this one is not even. I create, if it's a kawarinuri technique, I create the structure with thickened urushi and then cure it and lacquer it over with several different other kinds of urushi. Same applies to different other colors. This one is in shoe red and almost classic vermilion. Same applies to white. Just takes much more time because white cures very, very, very slowly. As you can see on this one, threads are not lacquered yet. They will be lacquered, I think, in this stage. So I will apply 1 more layer of white urushi and then I will lacquer the threads with this layer. Okay, next stage, once I create the structure, I often apply gold or some other metals just to create some contrast lines on my design. Then layer it with more color layers, transparent layers, or another layer of gold. Then layer with more colors of Urushi, sometimes just one color, sometimes a few. And I get to the stage when I'm ready for sanding. And I show you the black one before, but the same applies to this blue one. I started sanding it just to see if it's ready for final reveal stage. And this one is ready because I know this technique so well, and I made this kind of pen so many times. I know absolutely well that it's ready for sanding. The different story is with Tamenuri. This is Tamenuri with just one layer of Tamenuri overlayer on pale green base. As you can see, it's not as glossy as you can imagine. And I considered this one a failed Tamenuri. As you can see, there are two extreme differences in the thickness. The Urushi flowed in pretty unpredictable way, and I don't like the result. Here there is a spot created by the piece of dust, probably, which repelled the Urushi around, and it cured with a spot like this. So this pen will get sanded back to this pale green, relacquered with this pale green, and then I will apply Tamenuri layer once again. This layer must be perfect because only like some tiny specks of dust or unevenness can be polished out. But I generally do not sand those pens with anything sharper than 5000 grit. So Tamenuri is a different story. Here is pen which is during sanding. So the area where two parts meet is already almost sanded to reveal the design. There are some areas which need a little bit more sanding, but the fingers are just started, and they looked like this before I even started anything. I hope you can see this. So before the pen can look like this, it looks pretty boring and not very attractive. And to tell you the truth, it's absolutely the most exciting part of what I do. I can't imagine the fun and the anxiety at the same time and expectations I have when I start sanding some critical layers. One of my favorite techniques is a nakanuri. This is how nakanuri looks like before I started sanding. Before I touch it even with any sandpaper and any sanding at all, and not to mention the polishing. It looks like this. It's just very dark green and some unevenness. You can see there is something going on below this layer, but nothing interesting yet. This is Raden, very similar to the one I showed you, but not sanded fully yet, with a lot of residual Urushi before any finishing layers and before any polishing. And this one is like a between those two. So it starts like this. This is during sanding, and this one is finished. It's exactly the same technique. Same materials, same Urushi, same sequence, just on different stages of sanding and polishing, and before any wazuri, of course. I hope it helps you imagine how I work and what is exciting about my work, and why I often say that we Urushi craftsmen are not lacquering craftsmen, lacquering artists. We are sanding artists. Because the moment we can see the results of sometimes 3-4 months of work is the day we start or finish sanding the pen. And for this and for this moment, it's worth all the work. I'm Michael, and you're guests of Tamenuri Studio.